Hi, Tom Andrews here, and I just want to go over a few rules about the planer. It's a fantastic tool for improving quality in the shop. It's absolutely a beast of a piece of equipment, but it's extremely easy to use and powerful. First thing I want to tell you is that these are the back feed rollers, and this is the in-feed table. This is a 20-inch wide planer with an industrial switch on it, which is by far the best. And so to turn it on, it's kind of interesting the way that it works. But industrial switches work this way: when they're armed, the light is off, and then when you press the green button, it comes on. Most all industrial switches actually work that way. So this is the elevating hand wheel that brings the table up into the workhead, and I'm going to show you underneath exactly how that works. One thing that we want to keep in mind, though, when we use the thickness planer is that we put the wood in and it rolls across the bed rollers, and then the cutting head is on the surface on the top surface. And so we'll go underneath now in the next shot and look at underneath of it. Okay, I think sometimes the best way to understand a tool is to get inside of it, and for a thickness planer, the only way to do that is just to run the bed down, and let's take a look inside it, how this thing works. Like I said, it's very powerful again, and this is really the business end of the tool. So if we kind of pan up right here, the first thing that we see is a set of kickback legs. And so the way that works is when the wood comes in, these legs go back, they roll backwards. And then if the cutter head tries to push the piece of wood in this direction, then these cam actions roll down and bite the wood and push it against the table and stop it. The next roller that you see is a very aggressive one, almost shaped like a file. And that's this one here, and that's the in-feed roller. And that turns and forces the wood under spring tension back toward me. And then you get into this cutter head right here, which this is, again, a spiral head cutter. And you can see how this has all of these different individual teeth here, just exactly the way that the jointer worked. So once that material is removed by those individual teeth, then this is called the outfeed roller back here, which is a different texture and goes ahead and sends it out the outfeed table. So just like in any spiral head cutter, there's a Torx bolt that fastens this four-sided sharp carbide tooth in here. And so if you hit a nail or you don't see a nail in the piece of wood, and a lot of times you never do see them because they're buried and a tree grows over them. If you do damage one of these carbides, then all we need to do is just to take that Torx head and pull that piece down and rotate it 90 degrees and put it back in. So I hope that helps you understand kind of how this machine works. It's a very, very rigid and very rugged machine. Okay, to set this machine up so that you can cut wood with it, the first thing you want to do is look at this little black strip, and this is called a go, no-go gauge. And so what you do is you put the wood up underneath of it, and the way you think about that is it would go right now, which would mean that you could send it through. But if it was up here, then the planer bed would be up higher, pushing it up against the cutter head, and so then we would take too much off. So the maximum that you could take off would be any piece of wood that would fit under there. Now you could take that piece of wood and plane it with the bed at this elevation, but it might scuff up against this go, no-go gauge. So what I like to do is I like to back it off 2 full turns, 1, 2, and then now the machine is set up for the first pass of planing. On the elevating hand wheel, the way that this works is a full turn is 1/16 of an inch. And so that makes a half a turn, 1/32 of an inch. So if I'm going to cut with the planer, if I'm going to plane a full length piece, the maximum turn that you can take, the maximum amount you can take off with this planer is 1/2 a turn, or 1/32 of an inch. If you've got less than half of the table, you can go ahead and make the full turn and take off a full 1/16 of an inch if you want to. Generally, taking a couple of extra passes is a pretty good idea. The next and really the most important thing for quality once the machine is adjusted is how do you rotate this piece of wood so that it's ready to go back in correctly. So when you push the wood through, the main thing is that when it comes out of the planer, you do this maneuver right here. You flip it over this way and bring it on the back feed rollers and put it back down right here. So each successive pass where it goes through the cutter head, then you simply take the back up and straight over back this way, and now you're in position for the next cut. If you don't do that, what happens is that if you just keep feeding it through without flipping it over, what happens is it will tend to dig as it bounces off of the last the back outfeed roller. It will actually put a notch in the back of the wood. And planers that aren't adjusted properly have a pretty big problem with that, and that's called snipe. And so to reduce snipe, one of the things that you can do is to flip that piece of wood this way, send it through again, flip it this way, send it through again. So keep that in mind as you use the planer. And then, so what we're going to do next is just run some of this stuff through, and I'm going to turn the suction on, and I'll show you how to run it. So what you saw me do there was what we just call a surface planing operation, and you can see that that spiral head cutter makes it absolutely glass smooth. You can simply hit that with the sander very, very lightly, and it is ready for some type of coating or stain. And I just can't say enough about the quality and that it can produce. And you can hear right away that it's a much quieter machine because of the spiral head cutters. It doesn't have that full knife that comes down and whacks that board. And as that happens in time really quick, you get that very loud screaming noise that so many planers are so well known for. This is the quietest, smoothest planer that I have ever used. So the next thing that I'm going to do is show you how cabinet shops will use a group of boards in a planer. How they use a planer to plane a whole group of boards at one time to get a uniform thickness for things like face framing, and that's a very important use that happens in cabinet shops. Let's say that you want to do a face frame, or you want to do some rails and stiles on a door. One of the problems that you have if you rip something on a table saw is that you don't have really good parallel surfaces, and you can't control the width of any particular piece in a table saw very well. A thickness planer is really, really good at that. And what we do is we turn these on edge as a group and set this planer so that we can plane them as a group. And I will go ahead and demonstrate that for you. One of the things that I encourage people to do in their shop is to just invest in a caliper. And when you really want to get precise with something, that's by far the best way to do it. And so you can go ahead and get complete and perfect perfection in the wood, and you would be surprised at how much of a difference it will make if you will use your caliper in conjunction with your planer. You know, there are a lot of different ways to do measurements with a tape measure that has a tang on it, or some of the squeeze gauges, but none of them work like this. And if you really want that precision in your wood, where you're really setting this so that you have surfaces that are absolutely precise, this is by far the best way to do it. I hope you enjoyed the video. The thickness planer is an incredibly useful tool in your shop, and it can really improve the quality of the stuff that you do. Please make sure that you don't get too close to the infeed with your fingers. Please make sure that you don't get, you know, one of the things I see is these button-down shirts and things like that. Not the button-down, but the ones that have the drawstrings, loose clothing and things like that. You notice that I wear clothing like this and I have it rolled up. That's so I don't get it hung up on that infeed roller. That's the main thing that you want to exercise a lot of caution with, is not getting anything in up underneath the front of it. But other than that, it's a really high quality, useful, easy to use tool, and I hope it improves your satisfaction in the shop. If you like the video, click the like button and subscribe to the channel.